Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf Podcast.
RevelatorAlf.
Yes, so today I'm talking about motorcycle clubs, really, and why would you want to join one? Now, this is not going to be a slight on motorcycle clubs anywhere in the world, far from it, actually. This is more about an interrogation or asking questions. Why would anybody want to join? What's the motivation for joining a motorcycle club? And also, I suppose you really got to ask yourself, are motorcycle clubs, do they still fit in with a modern way of life? And are prospective new members, are they made of the same stuff? Let's say you all got kids and they're all on iPads or on their iPhones, and they're all playing on the PlayStations or whatever it is. And they just seem to be different now. Kids seem to be different now. So you think, well, okay, maybe exactly not now, the new members going into clubs, but certainly in the future, is there going to be a difference? And I suppose this is what I always ask myself. People have a perception of what a motorcycle club is. And let's say if in the UK, if you ask anybody on the street, you say, well, can you name a motorcycle club? The chances are they're going to say, if they do, they're probably going to say something like the Hells Angels or something like that. Because that's probably, for us in the UK, are the most infamous. Even if you're not into motorcycling or anything like that. And part of that is because of the historical media attention on the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. But we all know that all around the world there are lots of motorcycle clubs of, that kind of what they would call a dominant club or a 1% club in that particular area. And, for those who are not in the know, the 1% club, or this outlaw motorcycle club, all stems back from actually 1947 in Hollister in the United States, where they're having a gypsy tour motorcycle race between different motorcycle clubs. And that's what happened. Was there was a bit of a party that got out of hand, kind of say, and there was lots of false reporting at the time. There was lots of photographs taken that actually was staged, and what happened was that there's a big backlash. You can imagine, the public, big outcry, big brawling bikers, trashing up a town and everything like that. And basically what happened was the American Motorcycle Association, the AMA at the time, basically said, look, these people here who were kind of brawling and doing all the horrible stuff, don't actually form 99% of the motorcycle clubs out there. The clubs, or the people who are riding motorcycles, who just everyday people who just love bikes and all that kind of stuff. They're this kind of 1%. They're this kind of outlaw, and they're not really even referencing outlaw doing illegal stuff or living out of society. They were just referencing actually outlaw outside of the laws of the AMA or within the racing circuit. Anyway, you can imagine this whole 1% and outlaw tag stuck. And those big clubs, let's say, who sprung up all over the United States, they became the sort of dominant clubs and so on and so forth. And then because of media attention, the Hells Angels became the most widely known to people who are not in the in the know, is probably a better way of saying it. So that's the historical background to it. And what actually hasn't helped really with this bad boy image, or this total misconception, I suppose, of motorcycle club life, or should we say the American motorcycle club life? That's probably more accurate to say. Is the films, that are repeatedly portray motorcyclists in general as sort of risk takers, as bad boys or girls, but in terms of motorcycle clubs, they're always, portrayed as, the greasy, bad boy guys, criminal, and they portray them as a gang as opposed to a club, and that's why in recent years more and more sort of media outlets and law enforcement agencies all around the world perceive them as gangs and label them as gangs as opposed to motorcycle clubs. And what happens is when you start attaching labels to any entity, what happens is that you again reinforce a public perception that may be accurate or may be false. But what it does, it basically says anybody who is a member of that club or any associate of that club or within the motorcycle scene, if you like, or within the motorcycle club scene, I should say, then you're kind of tarring everybody with the same brush. So you can say, right, well, there are criminals within that organisation, within that club, therefore everybody within that club is a criminal or is likely to be a criminal. And that simply isn't the case. I mean, you could say the same about any group within a society. You could say chefs or cab drivers or, I don't know, whatever, musicians. You know, there's always going to be an element within a group that will have, will maybe not stick to the law, may break the law from time to time, or, you know, do something that commit a serious crime, I should say. But the overwhelming majority of people are just everyday people. They're everyday citizens who's just doing their everyday thing. Now, that's not to say that, you know, these dominant motorcycle clubs haven't kind of embraced the whole 1% tag, the outlaw motorcyclist tag, because it's almost like a big, you know, screw you, two fingers up, you know, as we would say in the UK, you know, to the authorities. So, well, if you're going to label us that, then hey, we're going to go for it as well. You know, we're going to embrace that. If that's what you want to call us, then sod you as well. So there's a little bit of to-ing and froing. There's a lot of mislabeling here. There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of preconceptions, and the notion of a motorcycle club amongst the general public has been completely warped. Now, especially now, in terms of social media, you know, the internet in general, social media, the Facebooks, the Twitters, this world, everybody wants to, you know, not everybody, that's a gross generalization, but there's lots of people in recent years who've wanted to join online motorcycle clubs or create online motorcycle clubs, and it's kind of bastardized the whole thing, if you know what I mean. It's kind of diluted anything that was ever there in the first place. And, you know, it's not only that, it's television programs. Like, you know, we know of the whole Sons of Anakee influence. And we know this new TV show that's coming out, which is a spin-off of Sons of Anakee, the Mayans MC. That's gonna generate its own sense of you know, wonderment and attraction for a lot of people. So the original question is, why would you want to join a motorcycle club? Well, and I think that you've got to ask this of the modern biker, the modern person who rides a motorcycle. And if they're in that lifestyle, they're attracted. What is attracting it to them? This is my question. Is it the notion of a motorcycle club that kind of resembles Sons of Anakee? They're going to get that kind of bad boy lifestyle, or is it something more deep rooted than that? Can they actually separate the chaff from the reality? Can they look beyond what is portrayed in the media, or are they embracing this whole thing? You know, so it's a difficult one. Now, we've also got to look at, in the UK, for example, and in other parts of the world, we are heavily influenced by American television and American films. We always have been, and we always will be, I suppose. Because there's some great programs, and even Sons of Anakee was well written. It was, you know, certainly up until the third or fourth series, you know, it was really good television. But it was television. It was fictional. It wasn't real. It was sensationalized rubbish. Yeah, of course they're taking some truths from certain elements within a motorcycle club scene, and whether it's based on, you know, these 1% clubs or these like a Hell's Angels type thing, you know, is there that element there? They say, yeah, we can use that in this storyline, or we can use that certain protocol, or we can use that certain way of doing things. But apart from that, it's very loosely based upon anything, really. You know, the guy who actually produced and directed Sons of Anakee also wrote, directed, and produced the Shield, which was the LA cop show for years. Fantastic show. But, you know, you get the impression, well, you're going to say that every cop then is, you know, completely a crook, then, are you? You know, based upon that show. He was heavily influenced by The Sopranos, actually, and there's no getting about it, getting away from it. He was heavily influeed by it. The Sopranos, you know, is mafia families from New Jersey. Great show, but how much in reality is that based? It's not. It's you know, it's a caricature, and these are caricatures of actual everyday people. They bear no resemblance to them. And this is my concern. My concern is, why would you want to join a motorcycle club? What is your reasoning behind it? What is your your thinking to say, okay, well, I want to join a motorcycle club? Now, is it because they say, right, well, you go to lots of motorcycle rallies and you sorry, I'm just doing a true Geordie here. I'm just looking at my phone aimlessly. Right, sorry, get messages there. Now, is it because that you go into the motorcycle scene and you've been going to motorcycle rallies and you see these, you know, people walking around with, you know, leather jackets, whatever, waistcoats or cuts in the US, they call them, I'd call them a vest or call them a waistcoat. They got patches all over the place and patches on the back, 3-piece patches or whatever it is. Is that what you're interested in? Is that what you're really attracted to? You know, that notion of being part of something that is bigger than yourself, you know, not just thinking about yourself, but thinking about the club first and foremost, you know, thinking about having a kind of a sense of a brotherhood, a sense of belonging to something. Maybe you've never belonged to anything before. Maybe you kind of, well, maybe you do fit in society, or maybe you don't fit in society. Maybe you're one of society's misfits, you know, whatever. You know, maybe there's an emptiness in your life and you think, you know, you need to feel it. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody's got an emptiness in their life is going to join a motorcycle club, or they have to search for anything. And I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, you know, there's going to be some reason that attracts you to that kind of lifestyle. Now, I've been around motorcycle clubs, I suppose, or motorcycle scene for many years. I've never actually wanted to join a motorcycle club, and it's not because of any ill feeling that I had or any reason behind it. It was just that I looked into it, and I looked at, I suppose, not into the process, but I would look into, was it the right thing for me? Did it really suit my lifestyle? Was it something that I was really interested in? And I suppose that's what I'm asking. I'm asking people, why would you want to join a motorcycle club? What is in it for you? What are you looking to get out of it? You know, what is this that you're hoping to achieve from it? Now, the people within the motorcycle club, they're the only ones who can really tell you what it's really like. So I'm looking at from the outside looking in. And really not even looking into the motorcycle clubs. I'm looking at the front door. I'm looking to say, okay, why is anybody else wanting to, you know, knock on the door, try and open the door, get invited into, you know, into the clubhouse, as it were. And I always knew that it wasn't for me, or it wasn't right for me at the time. Look, I know people in motorcycle clubs, and not in those dominant clubs, in the kind of family clubs, if you like, you know, those other 99% clubs, if you like. And you know, over the years, I've known people in different clubs, different levels, and that kind of thing, through other agencies that I've been involved with, organisations, you know, then you kind of have not affiliations with motorcycle clubs, but you have communication, open communication with motorcycle clubs on issues relating to motorcycle safety, motorcycle lobbying, politics, that kind of thing. You know, it's anything that you can gather consensus opinion, then, you know, you're going to start engaging with these different sorts of groups, and that's really good. There is something within, I suppose, within the motorcycle club world that is always going to be attractive to some people. And you've got to ask yourself, are they looking for a certain type of person now? Have they changed the kind of person that they're looking for? Are the old members, the old guard, as it were, the traditions of motorcycle club life, has that changed? Does it have to change? Does it have to change in order for them to survive? So there are lots of questions, you know, on both sides of the fence. You know, are the new prospective members, are they made of the same stuff? Are the motorcycle clubs themselves made of the same stuff? What about all the lower clubs? The lower tier clubs, let's say, who kind of have to be respectful and doff their cap, as it were, to, you know, the more dominant clubs. They have to get the approval, the protocols. So this is the one thing that you have to kind of look at if you want to enter this world, is that if you want to be a free biker, a free motorcycle biker, let's say, you want to go anywhere, do anything, not necessarily be welcomed in any given situation, but you know that you can ride your bike anywhere, whatever it is, go to any motorcycle rally, any motorcycle event, and you know, you're basically going to be anonymous, for want of a better word. Then the last thing you want to be doing is joining a motorcycle club, if you want that ultimate freedom of not being hassled, whatever. But you join a motorcycle club to be part of a group, to be part of an identifiable group, and that's, you know, and also, you know, having brothers and sisters, whatever, you know, around you, that you can help each other out and all that kind of stuff. So standing alone or standing as a group, you know, is one of those big decisions for bikers, really. Most, 99%, stand alone, you know, or they go into family clubs, you know, it isn't really this outlaw club. And there are lots of, you know, everybody associates, you know, motorcycle clubs and say, oh, they've got to be wearing patches, or they've got to be, you know, riding Harley Davidsons and all this kind of stuff. Couldn't be further from the truth. There are so many different types of motorcycle clubs. You can have dirt bike motorcycle clubs, you know, off-road motorcycle clubs. You can have little village motorcycle clubs, little town, you know, district motorcycle clubs, you know, that do all sorts of different things. Then obviously you get into the motorcycle clubs which you're talking about now, you know, that wear patches, identifying patches that you are part of this club. And they all started, I suppose, from the same sort of point, but then obviously you've got the different levels now and the different tier system, if you will. So why again, you've got to ask the question, what is it that you want to get out this process? Now, within, you know, let's say in the UK, you're going to have the big motorcycle clubs, the dominant ones, and below that you're going to have what they call, you know, there is another tier, which is the MCC, the motorcycle club, the MCC as opposed to the MC. The MCC, yeah, they're allowed to wear patches, but not back patches. It might be side patches, front patches, that kind of thing. So they're kind of identifiable, but, you know, they're not the dominant club. Within the United States, for example, there will be dominant clubs. Let's say the Hells Angels, the Bandidos, or the Outlaws, or whatever, Mongols, whatever club you want to think about. I'm going to say I'm not really into it myself, so I don't really know. But then you can have all the other motorcycle clubs who are still the 99% clubs, but they're known as MCs as well. The only thing is that they don't wear the 1% patch, the diamond patch either, you know. So it's, you know, so, you know, we have a slightly different system. We have a slightly different method in the UK. You can go to all sorts of motorcycle rallies, all sorts of events, and, you know, motorcycle club members will be mixing with everyday bikers. You know, everyday people riding bikes, you know, and I've spoken to lots of, you know, I wouldn't say lots of Hells Angels over the years, but, you know, in passing, oh, hello, how are you, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've spoken with lots of other motorcycle club members, just, oh, that's a nice bike, oh, that's a nice bike, you know, that kind of thing, exchanging pleasantries. There is a different vibe in the UK, definitely, and possibly that's the same all over the world, to the American model of doing things, because socially we're different, society is different, you know, and the geography is different in the UK. It's a lot more compact, it's a lot more crowded, there's a lot more, you know, there's a lot more politics, a lot more rules and regulations. You know, you just can't get away with stuff over here like you probably would do in the United States. We don't have guns. Well, we do, but we don't have, you know, much stricter gun laws in the UK, and as they are around the world, much stricter gun laws. Whereas the United States, you know, you're allowed to carry arms for the most part, you know, depending on the state and everything like that. So it's, you know, it's a different philosophy, it's a different heritage, you know, whereas, you know, United States has their amendment rights that enable them to have sort of free speech, right to bear arms, right to, you know, defend oneself, all that kind of stuff. We don't have that type of thing. So it's, the societies are different, and that's reflected in the motorcycle clubs. Now, it's not to say that the motorcycle clubs are similar to each other in the way they are structured. I'm sure they are. They're very structured, exactly the same. But it's how they operate within the local society that pretty much does it. I mean, if you try to do that, some of the stuff that happens in America, let's say, over here, it would never happen. They'd all be shut down, you know, pretty quick, or they'd all be in jail pretty quick. You know, so I say it's just a different way of doing things. Does the kind of 1%, does that outlaw title still apply in this UK? Yeah, it does. Absolutely. But I say it's a different thing. The family clubs, which you call in the United States, they're the kind of MCCs in this country. And, you know, within every region, you're going to have the local politics of, you know, are you allowed to join a motorcycle club? Are you allowed to form your own motorcycle club? What, you have to get permissions from the dominant ones, and you have to make sure that within a particular area, you're not infringing on another club's colours, let's say, designs, area, you know, all this kind of stuff. So there's so much politics. So if you want to be a free rider, getting back to the original point, the kind of last thing you want to do, you've got to ask yourself, am I really suited to a motorcycle club life where I kind of have to be restrained in many ways and dictated to where I can go, what I can do? But you also have obligations to go to other rallies and go to each other's events and all that kind of stuff. If you immerse yourself within that culture or subculture, if you immerse yourself completely within it, then you're going to have, then that's fine. Then you have to accept that that's where it is. But, you know, for me, for example, many years ago, we're talking many years ago, I kind of looked into it from afar and I thought, it's just not for me. It's just that point pretty much was the one that kind of held me back, and I thought, no, I'm just not into it. If there was a club scene where you could, it wasn't so strict, I suppose, it wasn't so demanding, you had to have that full commitment, then possibly. But, you know, and I suppose that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? There has to be a commitment from you if you want to join a motorcycle club, certainly going into the higher tiers. And that's why they have the whole process of sussing you out, you know, and this whole probation period, this prospecting period. Well, first of all, you know, you'll start hanging around them, they'll invite you to a few parties, let's say. Then they decide whether you're decent enough, you know, or you may be okay. Then you go through this prospecting period, this probation period, and see if you really are suited to the club. Do they like you? Do they think they can trust you? But also it's for you as an individual. Is this the kind of thing that you want to get involved with? Do you really like this lifestyle? Is it something that you can fully embrace, fully adopt, fully get committed to. And I think that the process in it is actually very good, because it doesn't just allow people just to come in. Now, here's the problem. Over the years, last sort of 10, 15 years, it's well known that many motorcycle clubs, possibly in the lower tiers, it may affect the dominant clubs, I don't know. I wouldn't think so much, but you know, that kind of process has been diluted a lot. You know, they're kind of handing out memberships, patches, whatever, to people who haven't really proven themselves, who are not really fully committed to that cause, if you like. So it's kind of diluted in some clubs, you could say. In other clubs, no, it isn't. You know, you get motorcycle clubs, or members of motorcycle clubs around the world, I'm not saying in one particular area, that people, the members didn't even own motorcycles, didn't even ride motorcycles, they'd never ridden motorcycles before. They didn't have a license. So you kind of question, well, how's that happen? How can you be a biker, you know, being a motorcyclist, you know, or being within a motorcycle club, I should say, and not even ride a bike? And I think many people within the scene would ask exactly the same thing. You know, I think this happened in Australia quite a bit. I think this happened in California, Southern California. I think that happened quite a bit with certain clubs. They were, you know, bringing in lots of other people from the environment to bolster their numbers. I think that's the case. I could be wrong. You know, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But so, you know, so there's, over the years, it's changed a little bit, and you know, the whole process has changed. Look, as I say, there are many pros to being in a motorcycle club. I'm sure there are. You know, the sense of belonging, the sense of doing something greater than yourself. You know, having a brotherhood, having going to a clubhouse, private parties. You know, that sense of, you know, you can walk into go onto a motorcycle rally or motorcycle event, and people will all, you know, automatically look at you a little bit because you're wearing the patches, that kind of thing. It's that sense of, you know, respect. There is you know, you stand up straight a little bit, you know, that kind of thing. People will look at you a little bit. Whether it's right or wrong is kind of irrelevant. That's naturally what kind of happens. So you think, well, there's definite pros, but there's definite cons to it. You know, this kind of perception, this public perception of you, this kind of negative public perception, this limitation to where you can go, the static that you can get from other clubs, let's say, from different parts of, and you know, in different parts of the world, that could mean physical confrontations, that could mean physical harm, you know, and you can get into all sorts of scuffles on different varying levels. You know, people die for this kind of stuff, and you think, well, it's just not for me, or certainly not for me. Is it for you? Well, fair play to you. If that's, you know, if that's good for you, then, you know, as the Italians say, contenti tu, you know, that's the way it is. You know, if you like it, then go for it. You know, it is what, there are definite, you know, cons, as I say. You know, it's that negativity that's attached to it per se, or negative perception. The politics, the internal politics, which is undoubtedly happens, or between clubs, where it actually helps. Helps to reinforce that sort of negativity, you know, in some people's eyes. In some people, you know, they will say, well, why do we have to abide by their rules or that club's rules, or as an individual or as a group? Oh, we want to start a new club, we have to do. The point is that the clubs are there, or the dominant clubs are there, and they have, let's say, a local area. They control the clubs, or they manipulate the clubs, they manhandle the clubs, you know, like puppeteers in many ways, because you've got to have some kind of sense of order. Because what happens is, if you don't have any order in society, regardless if you want to label them outlaws or 1%ers or whatever, they operate on they don't care about laws and all this sort of stuff. The point is that if there isn't any kind of order, then you'll have anarchy. Now, anarchy is no good for anybody. And even, let's say, in war-torn countries, when you have warlords, the warlords will sit on top because they are dominating everything, and they will have a sense of order in what they want to do and what they want to achieve. So even out of Anakee, there'll always come order. It will all have a sense of order, or there will be a version of order. Be that order, you know. So that's the kind of thing that that we're looking at, or that we have to, you know, consider. That the clubs are there to provide a structure, provide a way of doing things that doesn't attract negative attention. Because let's face it, let's say you've got a group of guys who want to join, form their own motorcycle club, and they might be good guys, they might be completely bunch of arseholes, who knows. But let's say they start wearing patches and all this kind of stuff, and nobody says anything to them. And let's say they start doing stupid things, you know, they're riding around, you know, pulling wheelies all over the place, knocking over old ladies, you know, committing crimes, whatever they're doing is negative. So if they're doing negative things, then people on the outside, members of the public, all they see are people riding motorcycles. One. So that reinforces the negative perception of anybody who rides a motorcycle, whether you're in a club or not. Two, then they look at, say, those guys, oh, well, he's wearing leathers or whatever, dark leathers. Well, riding a motorcycle and wearing leathers, definite bad boy. Three, yeah, they had patches all over their, leathers on their vest, whatever. Okay, can you identify the patches? Yeah, well, I'm not really sure, but there were 3 patches on the back, whatever. Then all of a sudden, you see how this negative public perception is constantly reinforced, and you get some dickheads who are acting in a certain way, and that drags everybody down. That makes everybody tarred with the same brush, and that's the problem. So the point is, whether you agree with it or not, the regimentation there, the order is there to stop any of this nonsense or help prevent any of this nonsense. When you get motorcycle clubs who say, or people who say, you know, I'm up yours, I'm not doing anything, I don't care what you say, you know, it's my life, I'll do whatever I want. That's what happens. You'll get conflict and you'll get, you know, issues. And let's say if you wanted to start your own motorcycle club, for example, if you don't go through the protocols of getting permission, at some point you will get approached by somebody or persons from other motorcycle clubs, not necessarily the dominant club, but within motorcycle clubs, and they will challenge you on what you're wearing and whatever. Then you're going to have to defend your position. No, okay, this can escalate into something. You're creating a situation of negativity that's going to be coming towards you. We don't really need to. Actually, what you can do is say, well, we can do this in the proper way. Or you can say, do you know what? We're just going to be a group of guys who just like hanging out with each other, and we're going to go to different places, but we're not going to wear any patches. We're just going to be normal guys. Well, nobody's going to say anything, because you're not labeling yourself as a club. You're not labeling yourself as you're not riding around showing everybody we are a motorcycle club. You know, you're not trying to pretend to do anything or jump into a lifestyle that you don't really know anything about. That's the issue. The issue is that you're doing, if you do it the right way, then you're more likely to not step on anybody's toes, not alienate anybody, but you'll also be embraced by, you know, the other clubs within the area, and you'll get to know, you'll be on the inside track of what's going on and everything like that. People will always look at motorcycle clubs, especially the bigger ones. They'll look towards the secrecy. What are they hiding and everything like that. The point is, it's just like any group, you know, you're going to have internal issues that you're going to want to deal with in your own particular way. You're going to have your own bylaws, whatever. So it's just like any corporation, any company. Well, this isn't relevant to anybody outside. You could say about any, I don't know, anything, you know, whether it's a church thing, whether it's a Masonic thing, whether it's an association, a builders association, whatever it is. Within that group, you're going to have a certain set of rules. And if you're not within that group, then you don't need to know those rules. It's as simple as that. Or you don't need to know those procedures. And people say, well, what are they hiding? Well, they're not really hiding anything. They're just saying that this is our particular rules. And it's only for our members or people associated. We don't want other people knowing our business because, let's face it, it's none of your damn business. Simple as that. So, you've got to, and again, come back to the original question. Why do you want to join a motorcycle club? What is motivating you to want to do it? Do you even know about any of this stuff? Do you even know about local protocols or whatever, all the positives and the negatives? Because you've got to weigh that up. Depending on where you are in the world will determine what sort of clubs are in your area. Are you going to be able to have free movement? Are you going to be really restrictive about it or really committed to it? That kind of thing. So it's a difficult one for somebody on the outside looking in to appreciate and give you an answer and to say, this is what you should do. There are lots of channels on YouTube, let's say, for example, which will say, this is what you should do, don't do this, don't do that, we're in a motorcycle club, this is how you do it, da-da-da-da. And you can follow those, and they're quite informative, they're quite good. But I suppose I look at it from the outside looking in, and I always look and say, well, okay, they're a motorcycle club there, yeah, not my scene, it's not my thing, so that's really cool, fine, but it's got nothing to do with me. I might go to, events they're hosting, but I say I'm as an outsider, just going to look at bikes, listen to music, whatever, drink beer or whatever it is. So they're hosting an event. Now anybody can host an event, and it's entertainment, and you go along, and it's really good. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you go to their event, you're associated with them. But then, if you get into that, within that circle, within that lifestyle, within that subculture, then you'll get closer and closer to the heart of whatever it is, that club scene. So if you go to their events, then you might get invited to more tighter events, more tightly controlled events that are less public, so on and so forth. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because from the outside looking in, I would say there's lots of benefits to being in a motorcycle club. But you've got to ask yourself the question, is it right for you? Now, just because you're not in the motorcycle club doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go to wherever they're hanging out, wherever their parties. If it's an open event, let's say. If it's a private event, no, you're not going to get through the front door. But that's just like anything. That's just like any private event held by any group or any organisation. You could be having a private party for whatever reason. Well, if you don't know the people, they're not getting through the door. As simple as that. So it's exactly the same there. You can go to any bar or whatever, and just because they're there, people don't necessarily attack other people for no reason at all. It's very rare. The reason why people attack other people is because invariably you're acting like a dick. You're creating a negative vibe yourself. Or let's say you're wearing you are part of the motorcycle club world, if you like. You're acting as wearing a certain set of patches from one motorcycle club. You go into the territory of another motorcycle club, whatever, into a bar, and you're kind of flagrantly not being respectful and all that kind of stuff. That's where you get into issues. But if you're an individual, you can go into anywhere, into any event, any bike. People don't care. People are not interested in you. Because you're nothing to them, because you're not part of their club. And as long as you're minding your own business, they should be fine. People are not going to, you're riding your motorbike down the road and people are going to say, or motorcycle club members are going to pull you over and just say, pull over and all that kind of, nah, that's never going to happen. Who cares? And the problem with the media is that anytime they talk about motorcycle clubs and they'll show you motorcycle club footage, let's say, invariably what they're doing, they're not showing any club members. What they're doing, they're showing general bikers riding their bikes in a group, let's say, to a particular event or whatever. There's no insignia, no patches, nothing like that. The media get it wrong all the time. The law enforcement have their ideas, and they investigate, of course, criminal activity by anybody. And some of those people may belong to a motorcycle club. That's fine. Look, if you If you commit a crime and, you know, you get investigated and you get pulled and arrested, well, you know, what do you want anybody to say? You know, you committed the crime. You know, that's what it is. But it doesn't mean that everybody associated within that club is a criminal. In fact, actually, what you'll find is probably even more so these days is that the bigger clubs are actually just like any other group. They're investing in legitimate businesses because it's business, it's money. You know, you're going to want to create and bolster your club, you know, make it more financially secure, and you're going to start investing in, you know, legal outfits like garages, you know, whatever, you know, workshops, whatever it is, tattoo parlors, whatever it is. People associate and say, well, if they're doing that, then they're automatically dealing drugs. That's not necessarily the case. There might be, of course. There's always going to be something going on in any group within society, but not necessarily specifically from that. The, you know, police in whichever country, the law enforcement, whichever country, you know, they will look at particular areas and they'll say, well, where's a particular activity coming from? Are you dealing drugs? Are you, involved in prostitution? Are you in guns? All this kind of stuff, illegal activity, you know, deaths and murders, all of this sort of stuff. And they say, well, who's doing it? Well, they say, okay, do we have a lead? Is it this person, this person? Well, then they'll start looking at it, but then they'll start looking at the numbers that are involved. They look at the how often this activity is repeated by certain people from within a certain club, let's say. You know, that's it. And then you get, you know, you'll get not necessarily a warped thinking, but you'll get a preconception from law enforcement to say, actually, that group predominantly are, you know, doing illegal stuff. And they'll be quite open about it. So, you know, let's say the law enforcement in the United States, they regard all motorcycle clubs as, you know, gangs or whatever, and criminal, you know, entities and stuff like that. They've tried to nail them to the wall over the last few years. I'm not sure what it's like over here in the UK, but, you know, maybe there's a similar kind of thing going on as well. Maybe, you know, these agencies, law enforcement agencies, share information. I don't know. You know, so I think maybe they've had to, certainly the motorcycle clubs, they probably had to look at themselves and actually make sure that they are being squeaky clean and doing everything legally, just in case, because there's so much attention on them. And a lot of it is not even of their own making. It's this public perception. It's this negative reinforcement. You know, it's, you know, TV shows that, you know, sensationalize everything, activities, and people naturally start thinking, okay, this is the way it's going to go. It either attracts people or it puts people off, you know, for the right or for the wrong reasons. Yeah, so why would you join a motorcycle club? The brotherhood, the sense of feeling, the feeling of belonging, you know, the parties, whatever, or is it something you've got a warped sense of everything yourself? And the reality is never really what you thought it was going to be anyway. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. You know. I wonder if the motorcycle clubs, the structure of the motorcycle clubs, whether they're the same anymore, whether that sense of brotherhood exists anymore. Because, and this is not a reflection on motorcycle clubs themselves. I think this is more a reflection on society, the way society has changed. Do motorcycle club members or prospective club members, are they the same type of people anymore? And I asked this before, are they made up of the same stuff? Now, motorcycle clubs have to evolve. They have to, you know, usually they've got an online presence, social media presence now. You know, they're very tech savvy, or they'll have members within their ranks who are very tech savvy. So, you know, all that kind of stuff. But are the new members or prospective members or people who are looking at this motorcycle club world, are they the same kind of people that would have been attracted to motorcycle clubs years ago? It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's an interesting one that, you know, you get, the whole motorcycling world has changed. You know, we started off years ago with, you know, you're always getting your hands dirty, always getting your hands full of grease. You know, you'd be, you know, your bike would be breaking down on the side of the road. You'd have to fix it all the time. You'd always constantly be tinkering with it. You know, another rider would ride past, you know, bikers, whatever, you know, some wearing patches and others not wearing patches, whatever. You know, it's irrelevant, really. They pull over, how you going, you're all right, or they try and help you out. There's so much less of that now. Motorcycles have become more reliable for a start. People have got naturally richer, or they've found other ways of being able to finance newer bikes as well, newer machines. So what's happened is, over the generations, that you got less and less people, you know, of the old brown apron brigade. You know, the white apron brigade were the car drivers, car racing drivers, you know, from the 20s, the 1910s and 20s. You know, the brown apron riders, the ones who got themselves dirty, were always the motorcyclists, the engineers, the motorcyclists. And that's basically why, you know, you all got tired with a greasy biker from years ago, because all his hands are covered in grease. That's disappeared. The modern biker, per se, the modern new biker, I should say, very rarely has to do anything on their bike. You know, they in fact, even if they wanted to, a lot of them, people just don't have the specific specialist tools now to be able to fix a particular bike. So you're going to have to go to a garage or go to your main dealership to get it sorted out. So most people don't even bother. Chances are you're not going to be stranded on the side of the road anymore. Chances are you're going to have some kind of recovery, you know, roadside recovery to get your bike back. You don't need anybody else anymore. And possibly people just don't care anymore. People just, you know, kind of tunnel vision. They've got their own world, and that's all they're interested in. Perhaps. So that, you know, the motorcycle club world has changed. I'm sure it has. Who knows? I'm not part of it, so I couldn't say. But from the outside looking in, you would imagine so. The motorcycle rally scene has changed. You know, I've been involved in motorcycle rallies for many years. I used to go to motorcycle rallies years ago where there's only, you know, a handful of people, you know, in a field, or we go to massive ones when there's 40 or 50,000 people, you know, whatever. And, you know, for me, motorcycle rallies should be small. I like that more intimate feeling as well. I like to know that you got friends there or whatever. You know, just a band playing is really cool, you know, that kind of stuff. But that has changed. You know, if you look at the demographics of people who go to motorcycle rallies, they are usually older people now. You know, the age group is getting older. Of course, you still get young people getting into the motorcycle rallies. Of course you do. But, you know, but the demographics are slightly changing now over the years. The kind of people that go there, you know, they're more, I wouldn't say they're more hardcore, but they look a certain way, they dress a certain way. You know, I wouldn't say it's a stereotype, but there is a certain motorcycle rally person who likes going to motorcycle rallies. That extension of that, you might get lots of people who join motorcycle clubs go to motorcycle rallies as well. Because of this negative perception, lots of people within the motorcycling world don't go to motorcycle rallies anymore, because they don't want to have that associated with that negative vibe, which isn't there anyway. It's only because it's the media portrayal. And, you know, motorcycle clubs, you know, small motorcycle clubs who want to have an event, in some cases, not all cases, of course, because some will always be really popular, but in some cases they will struggle. They will struggle to put on events. They will struggle to get the numbers to go to these motorcycle rallies anymore, because people have got so many other things going on. You know, in the UK, for example, over the last sort of 15, 20 years, outdoor festivals have become very, very popular, not only in terms of what people want to do to go out, but as in terms of as a money-making enterprise. So even every village or every town, especially in the summertime, will have some kind of outdoor event or outdoor festival or whatever. So there's a lot more competition for people. There's a lot more distractions. There's a lot more things that you can go to on your motorcycle, or different events you can go to. So whereas before you'd have a motorcycle rally in a particular town and it would attract lots of people, but also attract a lot of people. Sorry, it would attract a lot of people from around the country. It'd also attract a lot of people from the local area. Now, possibly that isn't the case. So people are struggling, all clubs are struggling, organisations are struggling to put on motorcycle rallies. You get really big motorcycle rallies, events, I suppose, that have had to cut back a lot or have had to shut down. There's a big one in the UK that went on for years. I can't remember how many years, 20, 25 years, something like that. It was organised by the Hells Angels, the Bulldog Bash. And I went to one of the very first ones, I think. I can't remember, many years ago. Didn't go to many after that at all. For one, I wasn't living in the country and stuff like that. But, there was good fun. The club thing isn't my thing, of course, but the actual event was good. Good entertainment, good friends that you had there. You had racing, not speedway, what am I talking about? Drag racing, you could take your bike down the drag strip, all that kind of stuff. So it was good entertainment, good weekend that you had, good 3 or 4 days or whatever it was. But over the years, they felt the numbers come down, and there's been more and more restrictions on putting on these kind of events, local laws, loads of licensing laws, all this kind of stuff. And I think now they had to suspend one, I think, and then in the end, I think this year or last year, they actually had to knock it on the head. They couldn't do it anymore. Whether it will ever return or not, I don't know. But that's the problem. The problem is that even the big clubs or even the big event organisers have had to cut it down again. And, maybe it's a cyclical thing. Maybe, they will come back. You'll have a big resurgence of this kind of thing. But just as with people, groups are being affected by modern life, modern living, modern bikers, attitudes of modern bikers, whether they wave, whether they nod, all this kind of stuff. What kind of, are there differences between bikes? Are there differences between different types of riders? That kind of thing. You go to, a motorcycle cafe, all sorts of different people there, a good mix of people, and that's the way it should be. But not necessarily that they're all mixing with each other. You all have your different groups, whatever. You go to, a Harley dealership and they'll have a monthly event, for example, and you'll get, lots of Harley people going there. You get a few other people, you get Harley people going there. Well, I always turn up on whatever bike. I've never had an issue, and nobody cares. But you'll get motorcycle club members there. That's the way it is. I mean, in the UK, it's fair to say that motorcycle club members, well, for the most part, don't ride Harley Davidsons. They ride all sorts of different bikes, Japanese bikes, whatever. It's a different way. Whereas in the United States, for example, everybody's going to be riding a Harley or an American type of bike. I'd be very surprised if you had a motorcycle club that rode, Japanese bikes, sports bikes, or anything like that. Now, there are motorcycle clubs in the United States, and I think it's more to do with the black clubs in different parts of the States that would always ride the Japanese bikes, the racing club bikes, that kind of thing. But you've got new sorts of clubs that are being started up that are doing all the stunt riding and all that kind of stuff. But I think they're a slightly different category. They're not really. But, for the most part, those kind of traditional motorcycle clubs in the United States, they're going to be riding American brands. Whereas in the UK, we don't really have that. You might get a mixture of British, European, Japanese. Yeah, you'll get some American ones as well. But it's the price, isn't it? It's the price of motorcycling especially for younger people. They're not going to be able to afford Harleys. It's just not going to happen. You can buy a cheaper a cheaper Japanese bike, and you can get onto the scene a lot better. So, people are changing. The scene is changing, possibly. Motorcyclists or motorcycle riders are changing. So it's a different world now, and possibly it's gonna change even further. So you got to question: will motorcycle clubs survive in the future, or the way they are now? Will they survive? Will they attract so much negative attention from the law enforcement agencies around the world that they're basically shut down? Will they pass some stupid draconian laws that stop people congregating or being able to ride around on motorcycles more than 3 or 4 at a time, or you can't wear any insignia or anything like that, or any patches or anything like that? Who knows? I mean, who knows what crazy laws will come up? But, people who make laws usually make laws because they have a perception of what's going on. And that's it. Once you continue having the negative perception by the media, by law enforcement, and if this is any way reinforced by any club member or club themselves, then you're only going to end up going one way. You end up going to have more and more of a divide, and you're going to have more and more pressure on the clubs to, change their ways, or even, be reduced. I mean, they're trying to do it in the United States, aren't they? The case has fallen apart, but they've been trying to take the one particular big club's insignia away from them, and I think it was the Mongols Motorcycle Club, but I don't think they've managed to do it. But there is definite changes out there. So why would you join a motorcycle club when there's all this negativity, when it really does affect your freedom? You're going to have to make that decision yourself, aren't you? You're going to have to look into it. But if you are going to do this thing, then before you jump into it, you need to get yourself informed. And you need to honestly ask yourself the same question. Why do I want to join a motorcycle club? Why do I want to do it? What are the benefits? What are the cons? What is the real lifestyle like? What is in this area or in any other area? Am I likely to stay in this area? Am I going to be moving around? All that kind of stuff. Do I really want to start my own? Wouldn't it be better just to go and join another motorcycle club, or try to join another motorcycle club? What about if you don't like the people within it? That kind of thing. These are all questions that you need to ask yourself, as opposed to just jumping in and thinking, wow, this is the life for me. The fact is, the reality is, if you try and start your own motorcycle club, the reality is, I've known motorcycle clubs come and go over the years. They sort of disband within 3 or 4 years, 5 years. There's internal wranglings, arguments, they fall foul of the protocols, whatever it is. There's some kind of issue that they just can't carry on. So you start off with this big bravado, big sort of sense of gusto. Yeah, we're a new motorcycle club. Yeah, we'll do this, and then they disappear. Because motorcycle clubs, actually take a lot of work, a lot of building up, a lot of work to the foundation, keep the foundation there, and keep the set of rules there. Once you start moving away from those, start diluting that's when it's kind of the beginning of the end in many ways. So it's very important for clubs to get sure footing, and to have a membership that is completely committed. You can have a very small group, and it's a motorcycle club, but you need that new blood coming into it, and that new blood has pretty much got to be the mirror image of what you think they should be anyway. So that's why the selection process, I think, is a good process. People think it's draconian, it's political and all this kind of stuff, and it's anti-human rights and all this kind of stuff. No, it isn't. They're basically trying to judge whether you are, as an individual, are right for this or not. Anyway. But, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting question, I think, anybody who's interested, in any way interested in that kind of lifestyle, they should be asking themselves this. They should be thinking about this. They should do their research. Ask people around. Get around motorcycle rallies or local clubs and see, if there's, what's it like? What's it like to be in a motorcycle club? Ask people who are not in a motorcycle club but have been around the motorcycle scene, a lot, that kind of thing, what their thoughts are. You get a broad idea. But in the final analysis, if you're actually part of the group, if you're actually going down that journey, you take that journey, you step onto the path, to go to the front door of the motorcycle club world. That's the only way you're going to know. And then you'll get onto the inside track and you understand if it's right for you and all that kind of stuff. There are different levels of motorcycle clubs. And I hope anybody who's watching this video or listening to the podcast, they'll understand exactly what I'm trying to say. Is that there are lots of different types of motorcycle clubs. There are lots of different entrance criteria, joining criteria. There's lots of different people, lots of different personalities, lots of different local rules and politics. Whatever it is in your particular area, is it right for you? Are you right for it? Are you the kind of person who is a good fit for the motorcycle club world? You'll kind of look at these things and say, oh yeah, I've got to see if they fit in with my kind of lifestyle. Well, actually, you're kind of asking yourself the wrong question already. You've got to see does your lifestyle fit in with theirs? Because if you're saying that does it fit in with yours, you're already going in with the attitude of it's going to have to conform to the way I operate. And that doesn't work. If you're joining an organisation or a club or whatever it is, you're going to have to conform to whatever their way of doing things is. Their thinking and their, you're going to have to adopt theirs. Their world has to become your world. But, it's an interesting thing. I think that, there's so many clubs that have started up, these online clubs all over the world. You can be, a Facebook biker or whatever, Facebook, London biker, New York biker, whatever, and you're part of a motorcycle club, yeah, and somebody somewhere is producing some patches and you can put them on there. But it means absolutely nothing, really. It doesn't mean, and you kind of go, really? Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Horses for courses, if that's what you want to do. But you're not really part of a motorcycle club because actually nobody knows each other. You've never seen each other. Oh yeah, look, I've got this organisation club here. But nobody knows each other. Maybe that's what you should do. Maybe you should, if you're going to have a motorcycle club, you all need to know each other. Physically, face to face, you need to talk to each other. None of this online nonsense, none of this, phones, whatever, smartphones, doing this, oh yeah. No, it's none of that. It is purely face to face. And maybe the old ways are the best ways for that very reason. You see the colour of somebody's eyes, you see how they're thinking or their body language, all that kind of stuff that you can't see online. And if if you are looking into this, then or you want to do this kind of thing, then you need to look at, let's say, the kind of person you are, the kind of clubs that are in your area. Is it the motorcycle scene, the motorcycle club scene? How long have you been riding? Does that necessarily make a difference? Whatever. Research. And don't do online research either. You're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to get your face known, and you're going to have to get speaking to people. And you don't think that you're going to start joining one of these dominant clubs because, that's not you're not going to enter that world just by doing a bit of a Google search. How do I join the Hells Angels, whatever? It doesn't work like that, And within those clubs or circles, those club scenes, wherever you are in the world, there will be I wouldn't say a pathway, but there will be an idea. And, you may want to aspire to that, that dominant club. Or you may want nothing to do with that either. And, you just want to have your own little group and be part of the group and the family group and everything. That's cool. And I think, if I was going to go into a club, I think, definitely I'd be into that kind of group, just small group of friends, whatever. you know, the old grumpy bikers or whatever, you know, the old grumpies. I think that's what I would call my motorcycle group, actually, or club. You know, the grumpies. Yeah, the grumpies. There you go. You heard it here, folks. You know, because I'm a bit surly at times, and I like being around surly people. I'm a bit skeptical of a lot of things as well. So possibly that's why I'd like my club to be called. But you know, it's got to be part of you. It's got to be part of what you want to think, and how you think, and then what you believe. And as I say, you know, you've got to ask yourself the right question over and over again. Anyway, this has been the RevelatorAlf Podcast. I've really gone on for a lot longer than I thought I was going to go on for, actually, on this point. But, you know, look, I think the landscape has changed for motorcycle clubs. The landscape has changed for a lot of people who are interested in being part of motorcycle clubs. People have so much more at their disposal now. Social media, computing, whatever. You know, different options to do things. So there are challenges, and the way people think is changing now. So there's challenging now. You know, maybe people are less conformist now. They're more individuals. Maybe that doesn't work within the motorcycle club world anymore, per se. Maybe there are more challenges. You know, so it's a changing world, I think, and it's a changing. You know, it's a changing guard, I think. You know, we're not there yet. I'm not saying that the motorcycle clubs, that the death of the motorcycle clubs is now. What I'm saying is, but there is a natural progression here, or there is a natural evolution that's occurring. Possibly, you've got to decide whether you want to be part of that or not be part of that. Whether you want to be part of a group or be completely individual. Whether you always want to have the freedom to go anywhere you want, have no static, no issues, be able to speak to anybody, whichever club it is. Because you're on the outsider, you've got nothing to do with it, or you actually want to dive headfirst into it. Anyway, so this has been the RevelatorAlf Podcast. As I say, it's available on all the links through the website, on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, all that kind of stuff, all through the website, RevelatorAlf.com. Check out all the resources there, resources pages, all the books and media, all the free downloads as well. And, check us out on all the channels, and I'll catch you on the next one, whenever it is. Maybe talking about bikes, maybe talking about something completely different. Right, catch you then. Cheers now.
RevelatorAlf.